Howdy Google Ads fans, and welcome back. In this lecture, we're going to talk about target ROAS, and let's jump right into our slide. So this is another automated bidding strategy that tries to maximize or tries to spend your daily budget in a way that hits your target return on ad spend. A couple things to note. One is that return on ad spend is not the same as ROI, which is return on investment. So let's just quickly, and I'm sure a lot of you know this, but just in case you don't, there's a slight difference between ROI and ROAS. So ROI accounts for your business expenses. It accounts for, well, there's different ways you could calculate ROI, but in essence, you want to take a look at what your costs were, not only advertising costs, but maybe commissions, maybe your cost of goods, maybe your shipping costs, maybe the cost of overhead, rent, salaries, etc. All the costs associated with running a business, that's how you get ROI. So straightforward ROI would be revenue minus cost divided by cost. Okay, so if I generated $1,200 in revenue, and let's say you're looking at a 30-day window, of course, it all depends on the time frame. So I would have $1,200 minus, let's say, I had a $900 expenses divided by $900, and that would give me my ROI. Now, return on ad spend is really just asking me how much more money did I make for my specific ad spend, right? So it's much simpler. It's total conversion value, which is revenue, right? Divided by cost of ads. Okay, that's your formula for ROAS. And in fact, Google has a column that is just that. It's not called ROAS, but if you go into your columns, you'll see something called CONV, conversion value, divided by cost. And that is your ROAS column. Now, you could use a custom column to calculate ROI. So for example, if you know that your margins, let's say, are 30%, and that's all your expenses, you could multiply your revenue by 30%, and you'll be able to use a custom column to output what your ROI actually is, accounting for your ad spend. And we'll cover custom columns in a future lecture. But again, this automated bidding strategy is not looking to maximize your business profit, it's looking to maximize your ROAS. And using the formula in the calculator that I gave you, you know what your ROAS has to be. I gave you a formula that will show you, based on what your profit margin is, what your ROAS target should be in order to be profitable, your benchmark return on ad spend. And if you were to put that in as your target ROAS, then you'd be able to actually use this bidding strategy appropriately. So let's just run through objective, scenario, strategy here for return on ad spend. So the objective overall is if you're tracking more than one conversion action, let's say sales and phone calls, and each conversion action, right, this is where things could get a little bit complicated, has a different value to your company. Targeting return on ad spend will aim to bid based on how much return you make on your advertising dollars, as opposed to targeting a specific cost per conversion. So when you're targeting by a CPA, it could be a little tricky because you have all these different conversion actions that represent different amounts of value. But if you want to take a whole campaign and say, this is the amount of money I'm spending, this is the amount of revenue that I'd like to generate, or the minimum, then you'll be in a good position to use target return on ad spend. How it basically works: Google will predict which clicks will convert and how much those conversions will be worth to you, right? That's from the algorithmic perspective. Again, you're not bidding based on a cost per click at a cost per click level. Google's going to choose exactly what bid to enter into the auction, and based on that click and based on what Google knows about your historic conversion rate and your conversion value. You tell Google what each conversion is worth when you set up conversion tracking. Or if you're running an e-commerce store, you'll have dynamic conversion value, which will read the total in the cart after somebody checks out and pull that information back into Google. But you must have conversion values configured. You cannot use this bidding strategy if you do not have conversion values configured. Campaigns using target ROAS need to have at least 15 conversions in the last 30 days, and conversion values need to be consistent within a range of a few days. Those are the basic conditions for using this return on ad spend automated bidding strategy. And I can tell you from experience, the more conversions you have in the account, the better this automated bidding strategy will work. So if you have less than 5 conversions a day, this is not a bidding strategy that will work for you. So if you only have a few final level conversion actions, where let's say you're tracking ultimate sales, and let's say your sales are $250 each, right? And that could either be an average combined if it's dynamic, or you just know that when you make a sale, your final conversion action, you're getting $250 of revenue. But you're only getting 2 or 3 of those a day, and you want to try using an automated bid strategy. Well, there's a really great strategy you could use. You could figure out other steps that a person might take, other actions that could be counted as a conversion, although it's not your final conversion. So just for example, let's say in our example, our final sales you're getting $250 of conversion, and that is being tracked as a conversion in Google Ads, right? But you're only getting 2 to 3 of those a day, right? No good, because it's not going to be enough to allow you to use target CPA, target ROAS as a bidding strategy. But you also know from your historic data that 37% of people who, let's say, view your contact page, 37% of contact page visitors end up converting, right? They end up converting into a $250 sale over here. That means I could track contact page visitors as a conversion action, but more importantly, I can attach a specific value to that. So you just take $250, you multiply $250 by 37%, and that equals 9250, okay? So I would be able to now put 9250 as my static conversion value for a contact page visit, and maybe I'm getting 15 contact page visits a day or 10 contact page visits a day or whatever it is. And now instead of having 5 conversions in my campaign, I now have 12, 13, 14 conversions in my account, and I could potentially run one of these automated bidding strategies more effectively. So that's always a strategy to remember. Use these micro conversion actions as long as you could attach a specific value, because targeting return on ad spend has to be using an accurate value attached to it. A scenario where target return on ad spend might be a good bidding strategy to try. Say your company sells insurance. You also have a free ebook available for download on your site. Okay, so 2 things: we sell insurance and we have an ebook. The conversion rate from our sales form is 10%. Conversion rate on an ebook, let's say, is 0.005%, and our average client value is $850. Based on what Google knows about the costs of our clicks and our Google Ads conversion rates for each separate conversion action, they're going to try and hit our target ROAS. So again, using the same concept as we did before, we could know the value of a conversion rate from a sales form. It's $850 times 10%, which is $85. And we could know the conversion value for an ebook, which is half of that. It would be $850 times 0.005, not 0.005% or 0.05%. And you'd get $42.50, right? So we would know the value of those conversions. Now, how do you know what return on ad spend you need? Well, again, you have to reference back to that formula calculator that I gave you in the second lecture, or the third lecture. You could plug in your profit margin, you could plug in these numbers, and you could figure out what return on ad spend you actually need. Now, what would this look like inside a real account? Let's go quickly take a check back into AdWords. So if I'm first setting up a campaign and I click on target return on ad spend, it's going to tell me that I can't I can't run target return on ad spend bidding because I have to set up conversion tracking. But let's go take a look at a live account. So if I go and select a different bidding strategy here in a live account, I could click on target return on ad spend, and then I can give a specific target that I want. So I could put in 2,000% as a target return on ad spend. I could use Google's suggestion of 5,900, and this campaign is, really, really dialed in. It's earning $50, $60 back for every dollar spent on advertising, so it's a really, really highly profitable campaign that typically works for most businesses. It might not work for every business. You might need to earn $100 for every dollar you spend, all depending on the dynamics of your specific business and your account. But let's say this campaign is operating at a 6,000% return on ad spend. So for every dollar I spend, I'm getting $60 in revenue back. Say we would be happy to push more volume, even if we have to bring that down to $30 back for every dollar, or even $5 for every dollar. So I might want to get Google to spend more aggressively. So I might say I'll take a 500% return on ad spend if I know that $5 back for every dollar spent would work for us and would work for this client. In which case, I say, Google, stop being so conservative. Don't try to get me this 6,000% return on ad spend and give me fewer clicks and less volume. give me a weaker return on ad spend, still profitable for us, but weaker, and push my volume as much as you can. Because typically when you tell Google they have more wiggle room, that you're willing to take a lower return on ad spend, you will get more volume. That's simply how the dynamic works, because Google will enter you into more competitive auctions where those clicks will be more expensive, there'll be more competition, the conversion rate will likely be lower, the cost per conversion will likely be higher, and as a result, your return on ad spend will be less. So if I have a less aggressive return on ad spend target, I'll be able to spend more money and get more volume, more traffic to my site. But of course, remember that whatever return on ad spend target you do set, it must be something that is profitable for you. In the next lecture, we'll talk about the next automated bidding strategy, and I look forward to seeing you guys there very, very soon.